Y'all, we've been living in distortion, but since I've started this book, I'm now living in truth. And for $9.99, you can too. I'm just joking. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but we are going to continue to go down the rabbit hole of Jodi Hildenbrandt's Cringe binge in today's video. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's back here. Roscoe's back here. He's frightened because he knows what time it is. What time is that, Paul, you might be asking? Well, it's time for part 3 of this cringe binge. Y'all, we are going to be continuing our cringe binge into this book right here. We are getting close to halfway through-ish. Again, if you've been following me for this is part 3. You will know that my body will soon reject the book. I'll start yawning. That's when it's time to be done with it, okay? I try and do these to where they're around an hour long each or whatever, just to try and get through it. And it's not that I feel like I'm suffering. I mean, we are all kind of suffering in this journey together, right? Because it's fascinating to hear the mindset, especially in situations like this, right? Of the hypocriticalness of it, but it's dribble, okay? It's just ridiculousness that we're going through here. So we'll see how far we get today is what I'm getting at. Okay. Anyways, we are on chapter 4. What is disconnection? Now she even has a picture. So here we are. Chapter 4, what is disconnection? And it says the spectrum of distortion, and it kind of gives us a little flow chart here, okay? And then we're just going to start. So, when you desire to connect, you must engage in a process of personal awareness, consciousness, and curiosity. You must also understand and learn about the characteristics that block connection, the characteristics that define disconnection. Disconnection is the default position we go into if truth is not present in our choices. I mean, already, y'all, so many words for stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, so many words. Disconnection, distortion, that. And then so many lists. Oh my God, we got another bullet point list here. Is it going to show it? So, let's get through it. Disconnection is characterized by the following. Any form of dishonesty, breaking commitments, personal irresponsibility, control, overt, covert, manipulative anger, resentments, lack of humility, living in fear, being prideful or arrogant, distractions, keeping secrets, entitlements, blaming, self-neglect, lustful or selfish behaviors, denials, addictions. All the things present in Jodi and Ruby. Any thoughts or behavior that are contrary to being honest, responsible, or humble will violate the ability to connect. These are just a few of the ways that a person manifests disconnection. Another damn list. Another bullet point list, y'all. Here we go. Lies and keeps secrets, manipulates to get what they want, makes others responsible for their choices' outcomes. I mean, can we say this one again through the lens of these two characters being Jodi and Ruby? Makes others responsible for their choices and outcomes. I mean, anyways, acts really nice and lies about motives. Not with this. It's like she sat down and thought of everything. She was like, how would I describe myself? Ooh, I know. And she started making this list about herself and then immediately projected it on everybody else, right? I can't. So breaks commitments, hides addictive behaviors, isolates and is unwilling to be vulnerable, feels alone and not enough. She's going to slide that book title in there. Acts entitled and arrogant, tells you whatever you want to hear, fears being responsible for their choices, blames, rationalizes, compares, distracts, avoids, etc. Disconnection is another word for numb. When a person chooses distortion, they will experience the outcomes of disconnection. Their emotional and spiritual senses are slowed and eventually numbed. This leads them to make more and more destructive choices in distortion, which results in more numbness. The inability to feel or care about the consequences will manifest in their life and the lives of anyone close to them. On its face, disconnection looks like unadulterated selfishness. However, disconnection is truly a manifestation of a person's unawareness or unwillingness to understand the spiritual outcomes of choosing distortion rather than truth. Let me share a difficult story with you. immediately into one of her God-forsaken stories. Every single one of disconnection's characteristics are found inside this story of one man's unwillingness to be honest, responsible, or humble. I am sharing this particular story because it highlights distortion's lies and the disconnection that always follows. At any point, this story could have had a different outcome if the person who was choosing would have been humble and willing to stop and take responsibility for the choices he was making and been honest about his perceptions and distortion rather than truth. Okay, now pause here real quick. Imagine, I just had this thought. Imagine if one of us wrote a book. All these stories that she tells, almost if you took the structure of her book, like the telling us what disconnection is, but all the personal stories, you took her story from our viewpoint and put in here. So imagine the things she's saying. This involves a woman who is not willing to blank, whatever. And then we sent it to her. I bet you she would not have enough self-awareness to realize it was about her, right? She would be like, wow, this is a really awful person. They really need Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can hear it now. That's all it would have taken. Instead, he chose a life of massive chaos. So unnecessary and so preventable. Here is his story. When Scott was a child, his parents were in a dynamic of addiction. His father was an alcoholic and his mother was his father's classic enabler. Some of Scott's earliest memories were of him crying for what seemed like hours in his room and not being heard over the fighting taking place between his parents in various rooms of the house. His world was full of neglect, fear, and confusion, and control, which led him to interpret his world at a very young age in distortion rather than truth. Scott was not able to connect with either of his parents, and his little world was full of distortions. This was the backdrop of Scott's story. When I met Scott, he was in his early 50s. He appeared to be successful in life and somewhat happy with his accomplishments. However, Scott's life was one huge contradiction. When he first explained why he was sitting across from me, I did not understand. He painted a picture of a loving father and family man, devoted husband and spiritual leader, hard worker and financially successful, and dedicated friend to many. As the story unfolded over the weeks, I quickly pieced the puzzle together that Scott was living inside one enormous distortion after the other. Scott disclosed that he was a closeted alcoholic and drug user who had begun stealing from his father's liquor cabinet when he was 9 years old. He told stories of traveling for work and spending his bonus money that he received from his job on gambling, often in Las Vegas. What my wife doesn't know about won't hurt her, and besides, she is living a lifestyle enjoyed by the top 1% of the population because of me, Scott retorted. I hate it in writing when people use the word retorted. It is like such a common do not do basic 101 creative writing type thing. Scott retorted. I'm just like, cannot roll my eyes hard enough. Anyways, that's me being nitpicky. During his extensive travel for work, Scott revealed that he had been engaging in illicit sexual encounters with hundreds of women and some men. Over the course of months working with him, I would ask him every time he disclosed more of this story to me, "Does your wife know about this?" And his answer was always the same: "No, and you can't tell her because she will divorce me." I repeatedly thought, divorce is the least of your problems. You know she told the wife. You know she did, right? She couldn't wait to break this situation up. This has her name written all over it. Scott was in conflict in every area of his life. He was a walking duplicity. When he was home and between his traveling schedule, he was, according to him, a present and a kind husband and father and loyal to spiritual responsibilities. He was a friend to all and everyone liked him. However, not too far under the surface was a horribly depressed, confused, fearful man who was masqueraded as self-reliant, capable, and having the world by the tail. Scott was alone in this world as far as he could see, and I was inviting him back into reality where there's peace, joy, and connection. It was always curious to me why he continued to come back and see me, because I confronted him constantly, yet he was consistent about his appointments. I did all I knew how to do to assist this poor, distorted soul back into truth, but he was not willing to honestly confront the consequences of his choices. One day, as I was teaching him about being vulnerable and the power of connection, he shared something I didn't see coming. He disclosed that he had another family on the other side of the world that no one knew anything about. I tried not to act shocked. He has been keeping the secret for close to 20 years, and he finally shared it. I am sure it gave him some sense of relief to share the details, yet it was not enough to motivate him to battle the powerful compulsions of his addicted brain. Can you imagine what a dangerous human being she is to confide this stuff in? I mean, we see the outcome. I can almost guess where this is headed, right? Literally, I must guess. As he shared the memories of his past, he realized how his addiction was the way he attempted to manage the millions of lies he told throughout his life. He knew that he was headed for more serious outcomes, since his typical acting out behaviors were not satisfying his cravings for disconnect. I validated him and validated him. I spoke the truth to him and invited him to choose differently. For months, I invited him to choose to clean up this record by choosing to be honest, responsible, and humble, and every time he refused. Sometimes he would be very overt about his unwillingness, and other times quite passive. He acted like there was no hope for him. I assured him repeatedly that he could clean all of this up and have peace in his life, but he wanted to control the lies and keep his wife in the picture, and therefore he would not tell anyone. The last thing I heard from Scott as he left my office after 6 months of working with him was that he was choosing to live the rest of his life with these secrets, knowing that he was unwilling to come clean about all of his lies. I was sad and still am for his willful choices. He is a man that can be healed, and yet he is not willing to surrender to truth or choice of outcomes. 5 years later, I received correspondence from his family that he took off one afternoon, and they have not seen or heard from him since. My heart sank. His disconnect made him numb to the reality of his outcomes. Disconnection is always one choice away. Unfortunately, most people who choose disconnection don't appreciate its destructive outcomes. It is imperative that you understand the oppositional forces of connection and disconnection, so you can truly choose for yourself which outcomes you would prefer. When you face those outcomes, you will again have an opportunity to choose to confront them with connection or disconnection, and the cycle continues. Remember, disconnection is an outcome of making choices that are contrary to truth, honesty, responsibility, and humility. And how inauspicious it is to be making choices with disconnecting outcomes that negatively affect the ones you love. Every person has a right to choose either connection or disconnection. There are only two paths. When you consciously or unconsciously choose disconnection, you create pain for yourself, which will manifest mentally, emotionally, and physically if not corrected with choices grounded in truth. As humans, we naturally seek ways to assuage pain by using strategies full of distortion, denial, distraction, and control. These strategies cut off our emotions and numb us until we cannot feel. We experience emotional disconnection and detachment from our emotions and our experience. In this disconnected state, we cannot love self or others, recognize truth, or create intimate relationships. Disconnection is an egocentric condition in which we isolate ourselves and refuse to feel compassion for self or others. Disconnection is full of selfishness, control, fear, and distraction. The antidote to disconnection is humbly accepting your vulnerability and being responsible and honest about your perceptions, emotions, and actions inside your experiences. Now we're going to go on to the key word of the day and the damn book. Distortion. Okay, I'm eager to read about this one. So, distortion. The single core component that creates disconnection is called distortion. Distortion has been called other names such as shame, lies, or dishonesty. Distortion means distorting the truth. Any thought, word, idea, belief, perception that is not a truth will be in distortion. That's it. It's that simple. We discussed what truth is and how truth is different from the concept of true earlier. Just in that one sentence, y'all. Truth, truth, true. 3 times. If you are willing to critique yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, you will choose which reality you live in. Truth or distortion. Because truth and distortion are oppositional forces, in order to know truth, you must know distortion. When you begin to recognize that you are using your agency to choose either truth or distortion, you begin to awaken to the power of choice, that your choices are inseparably connected to outcomes. For example, if I choose to jump from anything that is raised in the air, a stool, a building, a plane, the outcome will be that I fall to the ground. Why? Because of the law of gravity. If I choose to walk over shards of glass with no shoes on, the outcome will be that I will cut my feet. If I choose to go to California, the outcome is that I will be in California, not in New York. If I choose to call someone a mean name and they experience it as hurtful, the outcome is that they feel hurt. With every choice, there's always an outcome, whether you recognize it or not. The driving characteristic of distortion is pride. When we talk about pride, we often think of someone who only talks about themselves and disregards others. These are some classic manifestations of selfishness, yet pride has a broader definition. Pride encompasses dishonesty in all forms and always includes selfishness and self-deception. Pride is about you distorting the truth, what is honest, responsible, humble, and believing the resulting lies. When you choose to be prideful and disconnect, you choose to believe two distinct lies: self-denigration and self-adulation. Okay, so now we're going to go into the next section. It's called self-denigration and self-adulation. Lie number 1, self-denigration. I mean, this is getting all scientifical up in here. Okay, so self-denigration invites you to define yourself as less than others. It creates a false belief that sounds like this. Here we go for another list. I'm not enough, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm incapable. Please hold. We have to turn the page. I'm inadequate, I'm undeserving, I'm responsible to make others happy, I never get anything right, my needs don't matter, what's wrong with me? Why does everything always go wrong? Self-denigration focuses on the other to the exclusion of the self, distorted selfishness. This pattern of self-deception has been highly reinforced. Self-denigration is seen as a desirable and necessary characteristic to be a virtuous and loving person. Self-denigration tells you that you can't experience confidence, joy, or peace because you are bad, unworthy, and not enough. You can't share how you really feel and think because it may upset someone. You must work harder, give more, deny yourself more, neglect yourself more, serve more, and then you'll finally be enough. How exhausting. The lie of self-denigration states that fulfillment, love, connection, and satisfaction are not available to you unless and until you give all of yourself to others, needs, wants, demands, and desires, and sacrifice yourself for the fulfillment of another. When you focus on what others want, think, desire, expect, feel entitled to, or believe is theirs or should be theirs to the exclusion of yourself and what you need, think, feel, and believe, you are being driven by self-denigration. Now, I'm sorry, it could just be me because I've been reading this, whatever. But I'm like over here dying over that paragraph. I'm like, what? Like, this is so butchered. But it could just be me. The lie of self-denigration spews manipulation and deception around not just you, but about everything and everyone else as well. When you focus on others without taking care of yourself first, you will attempt to control others in efforts to control your own emotions and uncomfortable situations and experiences. Attempting to control others is a form of self-protection in which you enter into an illusion that you can avoid feeling discomfort. This distorted form of selfishness is based in denial, and its outcome is disconnection from yourself, others, and God. When you deceive yourself to believe that you're focusing on others, you're really attempting to control primarily your own and secondarily their opinions, perceptions, fears, and expectations of both of you. When you choose to act from a position of self-denigration, you will always have selfish motives driving your choices. When you attempt to give to another before you learn to give and care for yourself, you will have a self-serving agenda in the background. What appears to be your gift of love and caring is really based in self-loathing. Fear, pity, not enoughness, misdirected piety, I can't say that word, and conscious or unconscious attempts to receive recognition, praise, acknowledgement, gratitude, or acceptance from the receiver. This type of giving is full of distortion and manipulation, since the giving is not coming from an authentic place of love towards the receiver. Thus, it always wants something in return. This illusion of selfless love and connection is very difficult to detect because you must know the motives, heart, and desires of the giver. The initial behaviors of the giver will not divulge their motives. However, if you watch their behaviors and listen closely to their language, their motives will be exposed over time. If I, the giver, am not paying attention to what is motivating me, if I'm not conscious and deliberate and honest about my choices, feelings, and behavior, I will give from a position of distortion. The truth is, I am responsible for myself and no one else. The truth is, I am enough, valuable, good, capable, worthy, and can fulfill my own needs and advocate for myself. My God. Again, it's just more of the same stuff of literally just projecting all of these issues that she has on herself. Now that the cat's out of the bag, because remember, when she wrote this, she's revered, oh, the church is sending people to her, all this kind of stuff. She knows her stuff. Look at the damaged soul behind that. And you cannot tell me for 1 second that these people who are doing stuff with her did not see some sign of she off. She ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Because it has to come through. Just listening to her podcast, you can hear the smarmy, condescending tone just coming out in droves in her tone. So I'm like, she had to be this way in person. Okay, so now we're going to move on to lie number 2, self-adulation. Y'all, it starts off with a big list, so just, take a sip from the cuppa or something. Self-adulation invites you to define yourself as better than others. It creates a false belief that sounds like this. Now, I can already tell you from that first line, y'all, I'm going to follow this damn chair. 100% follow this damn chair that she has the audacity to write this. I mean, let me drink it from the damn cuppa first. And side note, I was just reading some of your comments in between taking a break on part 2. Y'all are so spot on. It's so interesting to see. This is what I love about doing stuff like this, to see how everyone sees this behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you can just clock it immediately. And it's like somebody made a comment, and I can't remember how it went exactly, but essentially saying like how condescending it is, like for the way she gives examples, like we're too stupid to get it, and that probably she doesn't even know it. She's talking about herself, so she has to like make an example of it or whatever. And I was like, yes. It's like she's talking to children or something like that. And we already see how much she cares and respects children, right? But this is how she looks at everyone but herself. Okay, so we're ready. Let's go down this list. I deserve to have whatever I want. I'm unique, special, and different. I can do what I want. I'm the exception. I am the best. How dare you? I'm always right. I don't have to follow the rules. Don't tell me what to do. Don't question me. I know what's best for you. This is who I am, and I can't or want to change. Y'all know, she thought she ate with that right there, y'all. She thought she ate with that. She was like, this came so easy for her to write that part right there, because literally she just described herself in a nutshell. Okay, here we go. Self-adulation invites you to focus on yourself to the exclusion of others and completely disconnects you from both yourself, others, and God. This disconnection creates the illusion that you can control others in order to protect yourself from ever being hurt. This is not the truth. When you focus on what you want, think, desire, feel entitled to, or believe is yours or should be yours, and do not think about others or have empathy or compassion for anyone else, you are choosing self-adulation. A person can never give love towards self or to another when they are in the mindset of me, me, me. Self-adulation is a destroyer of connection, vulnerability, validation, empathy, and compassion towards self and others. Though it is appropriate to lovingly care for yourself, self-adulation says fulfillment, love, connection, and satisfaction are only available by focusing exclusively on myself and only on what I want. Selfishness tells you to seek out whatever you want and to defend yourself from others, or be better than others, or get them before they get you. You may not realize when you are in a position of self-adulation because your manipulation, control, anger, fear, self-serving motives, and the enabling of others will keep you reactionary and distracted from the truth of how you are affecting yourself and others. I mean, my God. Two sides of the same coin. Self-denigration and self-adulation are two different sides of the same coin of distortion. One side of the coin is self-denigration, not feeling worthy or loved, self-loathing, and not enoughness. The other side of the coin is self-adulation, pride, perfectionism, aggrandizement. I have no idea. I've never even seen that word. That doesn't mean anything. That says more about me. Entitlement, always needing to be right and feeling more than enough. Both positions of self-denigration and self-adulation are motivated by dishonesty, fear, deception, control, manipulation, and disconnection. The outcome of these positions is the illusion of self-control and self-love. Both positions are full of distortions and speak untruths to their audience, you. Literally just described herself what she's doing. One position is not better than the other. Self-denigration may feel more loving because it appears less overtly aggressive and centered on self. However, neither lie includes personal responsibility, honesty, appreciation, love, or respect for oneself or others. Self-denigration and self-adulation are evidence of significant hatred for oneself. Since no person who hates self can create or manifest love for self or another, both lies are isolating and destructive to intimacy and all relationships. Although these lies are born from a desire to shield ourselves from pain, the truth is that disconnecting and withdrawing from self and others will not stop emotional discomfort, because the discomfort and pain are not coming from other people or from our experiences. Rather, the two great lies of self-denigration and self-adulation are the culprits. They invite you to misinterpret your life's experiences, enticing you to deny your natural state of vulnerability and seducing you to believe distortions. The outcome is emotional pain and disconnection. I mean, y'all, again, it could be me because I'm recording this back to back or whatever. And what I mean by that is, just side note, so my thing records for 30 minutes and then fills up and I go to the next one. So I kind of do it in increments like that. So by the time I'm on my second one, I'm kind of like, with stuff like this, you know what I'm saying? So saying that, I'm just like, I'm sorry, but the dis words, disconnect, distortion, da 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 da. See, Roscoe's even like, he's like, good God. He's like, bro, I gotta stretch. He's like, you got any chicken over there? Any hamburger? Something besides some damn disconnect. Is it upsetting? Are you in distortion? I'm in complete distortion, Father. Anyways, but I'm just like, it's like a mouthful of screws. I'm like, whoa, 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 with that whole paragraph, right? But again, it might just be me getting like, kind of like, you know, like I can't see straight. So let's drink it from the cuppeth on that one. Roscoe, you need to sit. Okay, he went back to sleep. Self-denigration and self-adulation, the two great lies of distortion. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. That whole first sentence right there, I'm like, just all these extra words. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not trying to like sound like dumb or something like that. Like, oh, my vocabulary is like more basic, but it's just like she keeps using them over and over and over and over and over. And I get it's the name of the chapter, but it's just like, it's so complicated. She makes everything so complicated, and it's probably a way to make herself feel more important. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like she's trying to make this out to be way more than it is. It's like, girl, you're at a 10, we need you at like a 5, okay? This is not as tricky as you think. You know what I'm saying? Especially for somebody that's having their license revoked, this, that, and the other. No, girl, this is not it, okay? Anyways, they are not benign beliefs. If you believe either or both of these lies about yourself, you will behave in very destructive ways. Distorted thoughts are so constant and so prevalent in our thought patterns and choices that I call distortion the voice. She's going to you know, she was bitter when they came out with that TV show. She was like, I've copyrighted that. We've been believing distorted thoughts since childhood. Because we've been reacting to this voice of distortion, the statements of distortion feel true. The voice of distortion influences every person who is not aware of its deceptive nature. Distortion has been called the master emotion because of its power to destroy all love and connection, beginning with love and connection to oneself and to God. The desire to control drives both of these two great lies. Thus, they are diametrically opposed to truth. When we live in truth, we are driven by the opposite of control, which is surrender. Truth is about acceptance and surrender, with no motive of controlling anyone or anything. When we live in truth, we simply accept what is and make choices accordingly. Okay, now we're getting ready to read Moving from Self-Denigration and Self-Adulation to Connection. When you choose to live in self-denigration or self-adulation, the focus will always be on yourself. This focus on self is very different from focus required to create self-love. Self-love is not an idea nor an emotion. Rather, self-love is a set of behaviors. Self-love is evidence when you are willing to look at yourself and say, I will be responsible for me. Emotional honesty creates responsible thoughts, behaviors, feelings, and motives. Now, this is rich coming from somebody who's Friends let her stay in the house talking about she doesn't bathe, her head spins around 3 times, she throws up pea soup, and she's trying to sleep with my man. Okay, that's literally what I'm sitting here thinking when I read, walking down the damn stairs backwards like she just auditioned for Exorcist Part 5. Okay, I'm like sitting here like, yeah, honey, self-love is instead of this. Like, how can you even have the audacity to write about this? Okay, but that's how these personality types are. If you've dealt with them in your real life, this is obviously an extreme exaggeration, one that was like able to just like go unbridled for so long. But on the basic level of like dealing with somebody like this, whether it's a family member or somebody you dated, whatever, you know what I'm talking about, right? Where you're just like clueless how they can literally be wearing a blue shirt and telling you, God, people who wear blue shirts are just so dumb and idiotic. And you're like, am I missing something here? Am I crazy? All right, so now we are in chapter 5, connection versus disconnection. With every choice, we reveal if our motives are based in truth or distortion, resulting in either connection or disconnection. To understand when others are living in truth or distortion, we must be careful and thoughtful observers. As an example, here are 2 contrasting presentations of connection and disconnection. Again, now that comment that I was talking about earlier, now that is all that goes through my mind, where I'm like, okay, now she thinks we're stupid, so she's going to give us these examples, but she's also trying to figure out herself what she's talking about. You know what I'm saying? Because she's like, I just don't think they can get it, you know? And it's like, well, what is it? And she's like, I don't know. Let's just make some examples. Okay, so I used to have 2 offices, but I decided to close both of them. A likely story. Girl, please. I'm done, girl. Honey, the feds came in and closed that stuff up, okay? I decided to close both. It's called losing your license, sweetie. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so I decided to close both of them. I offered much of my furniture and decorations to 2 different people. They both were very excited to receive such bland and horrible items. I'm just joking. It doesn't say that. You know, her decorations are like a pile of just like bland looking mud ball. Like, that's it. Like, this is the most color you're going to get in her house, right? So let's start with it. Let's just do that whole line over again, y'all. They were both very excited to receive them and express their willingness to participate in the moves. One person called me and stayed in touch about the moving arrangements. This person was willing to come and participate in the move and was there on moving day, on time, and prepared with a truck and extra people to help. Throughout the hours of moving, this person was happy and continued to express gratitude as items were being placed in the truck. When we finished, my friend even offered to help clean up. A week later, I received a card from this person, again expressing gratitude for the items and sharing details about how they were used. This was a connecting interaction. I cannot with this, y'all. I'm sorry. Can you imagine, like, going to have coffee with her at lunch and, like, say you brought her a little something you haven't seen in a while. Oh, like, hey, girl, it's good to see you. I brought you this. Thank you for this book. I am feeling joyed and connected at this interaction we've just had. I like this. I am happy in this moment. And this thing, like, right here, especially as you get older, you know what I'm saying? As you get older, you're like, look, I'm just trying to get through the damn day. I'm trying to put some damn food on the table and get through the damn day and get back to that damn sofa. So when you run into people like this, take out the crimes, right? But just this type person, this extra, it's like, honey, I don't have time for all this. I've got my own family. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? We're just trying to put some damn food on the table and get back to the sofa at nighttime, honey. We don't have time for a connecting interaction. Please hold. God's sakes, this calls for it. Drinking from the damn cup. Damn near pisses me off. Now she's gonna, now this, okay, also, this 100% is all veiled in her calling this person out who did not act this way. Okay, and I'll give my opinion here after we read this. I'm going to tell you what the next paragraph is on people who are like this, because this is like a high form of manipulation, what she's doing. I'm acting like I'm doing something nice, but I have strings and expectations attached to it. So here we go. My experience with the second person was very different. When I called this person to share details of the upcoming move, I was met with scheduling challenges and was asked if I could reschedule the move for another time. I was surprised and shared that this was the best time for me and the landlord. This person seemed bothered, yet still expressed willingness to come. I called twice before the anticipated moving date and provided details, although this person made no attempt to contact me back. The day came to move, and the landlord and I were left waiting for the truck to arrive. I called to check on my friend, only to be met with excuses, with no acknowledgement of the broken time commitment and the effect it had on us. This person arrived 35 minutes late, exasperated, dramatic, and full of rationalizations for the late arrival. The next couple of hours of moving were filled with complaints and declarations of exhaustion. I was looking forward to completing the job and having some space from this person because the negative energy was toxic. She probably was the person doing this to somebody else at one point, and now she's done this. Like, made it like it was somebody doing it to her. And my next holidays, it was probably one of her kids. It was like, God knows, what does she want now? Do I have to go? Can you imagine? Okay, after the last of the items were placed in the truck, I was offered a token thanks, with no offer to help clean, vacuum, or dust the empty space as my other friend had done. Though I still interact with this person, I have never received a word of gratitude. This was a disconnecting interaction. Who is going to put that in the damn book? Other than a bitter queen. And I don't even want to give her the title of damn queen. 100% was either one of her kids. Then she's lying about having interactions still, because from what I understand, the family doesn't talk to her, or maybe her ex or whatever. Here's my thing with this, and let me fact check myself before I say this real quick. We're gonna go back and make sure. I had 2 offices, but I decided to close both of them. I offered much of my furniture and decorations to 2 different people. Okay, she decided to close them, so she offered the stuff, so she's giving it to them. But there is strings attached, is what I'm getting at. Here's the thing: when you give something to somebody with expectations and strings attached, that's not giving, it's manipulation. Okay, and even if it's a level of like, well, I'm going to give this to you, but I want you to kiss my butt, and be like, oh, thank you, Jodi. Thank you for giving us your 1980s home goods collection. You know what I'm saying? Like, or whatever it is. You see where I'm going with this? But we already know she's manipulative. We already know this about her. We're not distorted over this fact. Next section here. Choosing between distortion or truth. We always have a choice before us. At any moment, we each have the option to choose distortion or truth. The outcome of choosing distortion is more distortion, creating a painful emotional state of confusion, control, self-neglect, distraction, entitlement, pride, self-loathing, anger, and fear. Distortion moves you out of truth and invites you to question who you are, your divinity. If you choose distortion, you will experience disconnection. Disconnection is the outcome of being emotionally dishonest, not open, teachable or willing, and irresponsible about your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. The lack of choosing truth is a pandemic human plague. And not knowing how to connect with oneself is the core issue for all of us. Unawareness or unwillingness to choose truth exasperates your vulnerability to provide all manner of distortion, which in turn creates all types of aggression, controlling, addictive, and other destructive behaviors and attitudes towards self and others. Learning to be honest, humble, and responsible is the key to healing all types of addictive and destructive behaviors, and the outcome is connection. I mean, my God, y'all. So exhausting. Such an insufferable, exhausting person. We're entering into part 2. Now we're gonna go a little bit further. We're gonna see how far we get, because I am starting to get into that, like, oh my gosh, I am rejecting the book state. Okay, so let's just know that, just understand that, okay? Okay, now just so you know, this is what the page looks like. So it's several bullet points here. So we're going to read through it. Experience is a gift from our Creator. The only way for us to practice using our choice is to have something to project our choice onto, and that is experience. Experience comes from 3 different sources: the outcome of our choices, and then there's 3 bullet points. I didn't set the timer on the stove and dinner burned. I snooze my alarm and I'm late for work. I wash my sheets and they are clean and fresh. The outcomes of others' choices: the cat ran away when my brother did not shut the door. My spouse made me breakfast and I feel appreciated. My friend splashed me and my hairdo is ruined. Things that just happen. I am diagnosed with a serious illness. My flight is canceled because of bad weather. There is a mouse in the house. As you have experiences, it is your opportunity to choose either truth or distortion in the experience. Experience is a neutral concept, and choice is where you begin to engage with it. Experience is constant. Experience is a loving opportunity from God to practice again and again and again, choosing between truth and distortion. Experience affords us opportunities over and over again to accept and acknowledge our state of existence in this world, which is vulnerable. Experience gives us opportunities to practice the movement of choice and outcome and appreciate and power and wisdom of oppositional forces. Now there's another bullet point thing here. Right and wrong, hard and soft, hot and cold, pleasure and pain, up and down, unsafe and safe, fear and peace, light and darkness. There's the light and darkness. You can better appreciate and understand experience because you know its opposite. You will experience pain and discomfort, and you will also experience pleasure and peace. Yet it's the pain and discomfort that seems to capture our attention inside these experiences. Painful experiences invite you to recognize both your vulnerability and the power of your choices and their outcomes. This recognition invites you to make different choices if you want different outcomes. All experience is a gift to create awareness of the power and caliber of choice and outcome. When painful experiences present, choosing in truth is always an invitation to heal and grow. In this section, we will explore 7 aspects of experience: vulnerability, motives, perceptions, emotions, choices, triggers, and pain. We're talking side eye here, y'all. So chapter 6 is vulnerability. When I was 15 years old, I was sitting in math class with all my friends around me. We were taking a test when my friend leaned over and she needed help. In that moment, I felt trapped. She was my friend, and of course I wanted to help her. Yet I knew that it was wrong to cheat. I felt very vulnerable as I slid my paper over for her to see my answers. I felt so conflicted, wanting her to like me and betraying my values. 2 days later, I was called into the office of my math teacher. He confronted me with the test and asked if I cheated. As reality hit me, I dropped my head and acknowledged that yes, I had. He was visibly upset and announced that I would be suspended from school for 3 days beginning immediately. He offered no compassion or mercy. I knew that I would be in trouble with my parents and that they too would shame me, though I didn't know that word at the time. Again, we see she carried this into her adulthood to inflict onto others. I come back to this so often with the things that we're reading specifically for her, in that she's lived through some of these things and can digest them and say, this is how I felt, again, if it's true or not, yet is willing to cast it upon others. So it's like this. It's like if you experienced this and you did not like the way it made you feel, and there's a difference between being like, look, this was legit. My parents reprimanded me in a normal way. I did something wrong. And then there's like this other level of like stuff, maybe not specifically this, but that she talks about. It's like, yeah, that's abnormal. That's like abusive in my opinion. So why would you not change that around instead of just being more abusive to others? It's like the abused becomes the abuser type scenario. Again, if all this is true, what she writes of. Let's continue. I can still feel the pain of that vulnerable experience. I now have compassion for myself and the situation I was in. I was burdened with distortion and did not see the truth of the situation. I wanted to be liked, and in my 15-year-old mind, cheating was the only way to achieve that. Still is, apparently. I spent 3 days in a cloud of distortion and guilt. This translates to she smoked out the damn car. The next 3 days. I spent 3 days in a cloud of distortion and guilt. I cannot roll, where's my damn cup? Cannot roll my eyes hard enough at this, y'all. When I came back to school, I wanted to hide. I felt humiliated, and yet I felt a firm resolve to never cheat again. It was a palpable experience and vulnerability, and one that I've never forgotten. Well, clearly it didn't take. I mean, my God, look at where we're at today now. Anyways, humans live in an inescapable state of vulnerability. Notice how she says humans. She probably considers herself above that. We are vulnerable to sickness, aging, death, pain, confusion, sadness, loss, grief, hunger, ignorance, poor choices and others' choices, broken trust, deceit, fraud, violence, disasters, and on and on. The state of vulnerability means we cannot control anything other than our own thoughts, perceptions, feelings, and behaviors. Vulnerability means we choose to accept and acknowledge all experiences and not distort any of them. We live in truth, honest, responsible, and humble of our vulnerability. That statement is one you need to reflect on and think about how expansive that invitation is for you. Acknowledging how vulnerable we are can be an uncomfortable and disturbing realization. Instead, we want to feel invincible, powerful, and in control. We are drawn towards anything that gives us the illusion of control: gossip, lies, envy, lust, addictions, compulsions, comparison, competition, manipulation, drama, fantasy, drugs, egotism, lust, distorted anger, aggression, hatred, violence, entitlements, etc. My God, y'all. However, the reality is we can never escape our vulnerability, and no matter how much we want to tell ourselves we can, the truth is we cannot. Now, the next thing is accepting vulnerability. When we choose to accept this crucial fact of our existence, that we are vulnerable, we become emotionally open, raw, real, and willing to share ourselves. We admit we are limited, fragile, and weak. We ask for help. We communicate our emotions. We ask for validation. And we take responsibility for the outcome of our choices. Again, she needs to take a sip of her own medicine. We accept reality as it is. Vulnerability means you're willing to align your choices with truth regardless of what you want or wish reality were. Vulnerability requires you to risk emotionally, to put yourself in a position where you will experience pain, misfortune, and discomfort. Accepting vulnerability creates peace, stability, and faith to face the reality of your life. Vulnerability leads to connection and freedom. Are you willing to recognize how experiences, sickness, trauma, tragedy, and other people affect you? Are you also willing to be vulnerable and connect with others? Are you willing to validate others? Are you willing to accept all of life and to stop attempting to control or manipulate yourself, situations, outcomes, other people, or uncomfortable feelings? Are you willing to surrender the illusion of control? Well, then you be a great contestant on Connections. It doesn't say that, obviously, but it feels like you're leading into that, right? The truth is, you are not in control, except for the way you choose to manage your own emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Vulnerability involves the act of risking by exposing yourself to something or someone that has the potential to harm, hurt, or create discomfort for you. Vulnerability involves the act of risking by exposing yourself to the opportunity of connection and love. Distortion tells you not to risk because it will create exposure to feelings of discomfort, and that would be bad, but that is not the truth. Anytime you choose to risk, let's turn the page, in truth, you have the opportunity for connection with God, self, and others. Vulnerability is an opportunity to learn and is always for your growth and betterment if you choose to perceive it in that way. Vulnerability always includes an element of risk. The willingness to risk is wise if you hold your choices in truth, which will create connection and validation. You are responsible for what you are risking, why you are risking, and with whom you are risking. And you must be willing to surrender control of all of the outcomes of choosing to risk. Vulnerability has the power to connect you to yourself, God, and others. Enter into it bravely and boldly. Now, God help me, the next list she puts in here, y'all. I mean, it's a damn page and a half. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna go through this, and that's our stopping point for the day, because she's got me all messed up. Vulnerability looks and sounds like this. Here we go. No one will go with you to your appointment, so you go alone. You sing a song to an audience and you're scared to death. You trip and fall down as you walk to give a presentation. You offer friendship to an acquaintance. You say I love you and the other person smiles back. You receive an award for all of your accomplishments. Your child tells you they hate you. You turn 50 and you're diagnosed with cancer. You're lied and gossiped about. Someone steals from you. You're out in the sun and you get heat stroke. You run into a rattlesnake on your morning hike. You go running and it starts to rain. You dance with your daughter at her wedding reception. You spill taco salsa down your shirt. You loan the car to your teen and he crashes it. You don't pay your credit card bills and you get a late fee. Someone tells you you are the best. It sounds like that Alanis Morris song. And isn't it ironic? Don't you think? It's like rain, that song. Okay, anyways, that's just a me moment. When you are vulnerable, you are available emotionally, spiritually, physically, in every way. Willing to be seen and known. Willing to share self. Humble, teachable, curious. Aware of your boundaries and the boundaries of others. Aware of your insecurities and limitations. Accepting you're human, need help, and make mistakes. aware you cannot control everything. You can be hurt. Vulnerability is accepting and moving within the reality of whatever is being presented in the form of an experience and not distorting its presentation. Whether it is holding the experience in truth, being honest, responsible, and humble within yourself, and accepting what is yours to control and what is not yours to control. It is allowing all other participants in the experience to make their own choices and experience their own outcomes. All parties are strengthened because they will learn from their own choices and outcomes, whether they want to continue to choose truth or distortion. Every choice is teaching them. This movement fortifies relationships and creates safety when both participants are willing to be vulnerable. The outcome in a relationship is safety, trust, connection, primarily with self and secondarily with others. Okay, now just so we know, the next thing we're going to read, but not today, is Motives, Chapter 7. We're a little bit more than halfway through. Again, God help us. So here's some overall thoughts. One thing, she likes making lists, number one. Like, if you want to look at it from a writing style, it's like, oh my God, this is exhausting. It's a book of bullet points. But the person who made the comment about saying like she's doing the example thing because she thinks we're idiots is so spot on. It's like she does this constant leveling of examples. And then also you see like that whole story she did about the person who was ungrateful. She's also using this to like throw people under the bus, because think of this. And somebody made a comment under part 2 of saying like, why is she writing about things that people have confided? And that's my thought too, right? I'm like, you got to think that probably her patients are reading this book. So it's this low key way of putting people out there. You know what I mean? Because imagine reading this and you're reading your story. Maybe she changed your name, but you're like, this is my therapist. Like, I'm waiting for Kevin to come up in this. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of a thing. It's just obvious. She's so demented. She's so evil, right? And I'm talking specifically of her, but I lump Ruby in with that. But I mean, obviously we're just reading Jodi's book here. But again, it's just, it sets this tone for me of anger. I mean, I'm not going to lie, because of the hypocriticalness of it, because I know she has no concept how vile she is. She thinks she is amazing. It's why she has whatever personality disorder she has, you know, so, but she's sitting here talking down to all of us and anybody. And the fact that, I mean, again, people lap this up and I'm like, y'all, this, honey, therapy's not this difficult and life is not this difficult, okay? I'm all for therapists and therapy, but this right here, please, no, 100% not. Drinking from the damn cuppeth. Case, damn close. Okay. So look, that's it for today. We're going to revisit it again. I'm just going to keep going through it. I still have the other one, God help us. And yeah, that's it. If you want to hear me do more of these, if you have book suggestions, I know some people want me to do more Chads, let me know like in the comment section and we can look into doing those too. Because I might, after this one, want to take a break, maybe do O.J. Simpson's book, because now that he's gone, you know, what do y'all think? Let me know. Anyways, Roscoe says thank you. Say thank you. He asks that you drop some sofas in the comment section for both he and I to come down there, talk about this horrible book, cases, all that we do, and others. And until we do meander down there and do that, we'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. Also, if you're looking for merch, be sure to check out my Teespring store. I'll put that up here. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.